Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use Fluid Designer for 3D printing to create your own personalized ring. And in this case, as you can see, it's a ring and we've got the letter A, could be A for Alison for example, and then we've got a round gem fitted into the letter A. So I'm going to show you how you can do that in Fluid Designer. And so first of all, if we start Fluid Designer up, we're going to use a number of different objects here and join them together because these are all parametric smart objects, which makes it easy for creating 3D printable files. And so if I just go to Gem Settings Bezel, I'm going to show you how we can use a couple of objects in the bezel 10mm round object here. So if I just drag and drop that onto the workspace, now you can see that to a large extent the ring is already built for me there. But I'm actually not going to use this particular ring, but I am going to use this round gem object, and I'm going to use the bezel ring round as well. Now both of these objects are actually set up to be 10mm, that's the default size in our system, but we'll show you how easy it is to change those, because they are basically parametric objects, they are in fact curves. So we're going to use those two objects there, we're going to append them to our workspace, and if I just go to File and New, and we're also going to use a Harrington font. So I'm going to use this object here, Harrington Font letter A. I'm going to put that onto the ring as well. So this just shows you where they are and the objects we're going to use. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the rings folder, because it's a ring that we're going to create. And I'm just going to use the object all UK ring sizes. This object actually comes free with Fluid Designer for 3D printing if you want to download it. Some of the other objects you do actually have to pay for. Okay, so here's our default UK ring size. Now if we look in the objects panel over here, you can see that the size of this ring, the default one, is 15.09mm. And if we look in the property panel over here, you can see the cross section of it at the moment is 1mm by 5mm. And because this is a parametric smart object, we can change the size of this ring very easily just in the menu system here. And we can also select a different size of ring. So I'm going to select size P+. Now the way to do that is we need to switch on the view of this particular object and the fact that we can select it. So we're going to use this curve here, this parametric smart object, UK size P+, which has been defined for you, and what we need to do is to add some thickness to it. But before we do that, what we must always do is to remove the bevel object, remove the cross section from the original default ring. You don't want to be printing two rings, so just remove that and just hide the original ring, the default one, because we're going to work with this size now, UK size P+. So we need to add some thickness to that, so I'm going to select a thickness of 1mm by 3mm. So it's 1mm thick here and 3mm deep here. Now the next thing I need to do is I want to add a letter A to my workspace, as I showed you previously, and it's not listed there. So if you can't see anything in the drop down list here, just click the button at the top and it will refresh the list. I want alphabet Harrington font, and I'm going to append this object to the workspace. And we don't drag and drop it, we go to append. So if we go to File and Append and just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, and we want pattern alphabet Harrington font, and we're going to use the letter A, and we always append the object. So it's the Harrington Font A object, it's not these cross sections that we want, it's the Harrington Font A object, and we append that from the library. So there's our letter A. and I'm going to want to put it at the top of the ring here. So what I need to do is I need to rotate it. So with the A selected, I'm pretty sure I need to rotate it anti-clockwise, so I need to go to -90 here. So if I type in -90, that will just set the rotation correctly for that object. And I'm going to apply that rotation. So if I do Control A on the keyboard and apply the rotation, what will happen? The -90 will disappear. So Control A, and apply the location. And oh, it hasn't. Sorry, not location, rotation I wanted. Apply the rotation, and you'll see the -90 disappears. Now you can see that when we do that, this object has got squashed. Now this is a parametric smart object, and what's happening is the bevel section here is 1/2. Yeah, so what we need to do is to change it to 2/1. So you just flip it to the other value there, and you can see that you get the thickness back. So if your parametric object squish like that, just reverse this from 1/2 to 2/1. So if I just view this object from the top now what I can do is I can move my letter A up to the top of my ring, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to resize this ring so that it fits on the outside of the letter A. I don't want the A overlapping. I want the body of the ring to come out, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So if I select the ring itself, and if I press the tab key on the keyboard to go into edit mode, you'll see that there are a number of control points around the object, because this is a curve. And if I select the control point, just the control point at the top there, and if I change this value over here, the radius, you can see what's happening as I increase this. The shape just at the top of the ring, not the rest of the ring, just this bit at the top is changing. Now if I hold down the left mouse button and drag it, you can see I can drag it out until it just fits outside of the letter A. Now I know the A's disappeared at the moment, but we just need to move it. So I can reshape the top of the ring, reprofile it, so that the letter A fits nicely. Once you're happy with that, you can press the tab key to come out of edit mode, and we need to select the A object again. And if I just go to view and top view, and we just need to reposition the A so that it sits nicely there. Okay, so there's my letter A. Now I could change the thickness of this if I wanted it a bit thicker. So it is at 2/1 at the moment. So if I go to 3/1, that will give it a bit more depth, and I could just bring it up a little bit further so that it's like that. Yeah, that looks okay. So now what I want to do is I want to put a gem in the top here, and as I showed you previously, I'm going to use this bezel type gem. I'm going to use a round gem. So I need to append those to my workspace. So if I go to File and Append, and just go through the menu system until you get Groups again, and that object that I've just shown you there was a bezel. It's a gem setting bezel, and we're going to use the round one, and the default size is 10mm, but we'll change that. So I need to append the object. And so the objects that I don't want all these cross sections. I just need the bezel ring round, which is the bezel itself, and the gem. I'm going to bring in the gem as well. So if we append those two objects from the library, that's brought them in. What we need to do now is to reposition them, and we need to resize them. Okay, now I can't quite see the gem at the moment. It was the round gem, so if I just look for R for round in the outliner panel here, so that should select the gem. So if we just move the gem up, there you can see the gem. So we've got a bezel ring round, which is this object, and we've got the round gem. Now if I just hide the bezel ring for a moment, so I've just clicked on the eye over here just to hide it. What I need to do is I need to resize my gem here. Now clearly the size of this will depend upon the actual gem that you purchase, I'm going to assume in this instance that it's about 4 millimeters, this gem that I'm going to use. So I need to scale this down. So we scale by pressing S on the keyboard, and I'm going to scale it down to 0.4. So that will give me a gem diameter of 4 millimeters instead of 10 millimeters. And we can see that in the properties panel here. It's gone down from 10 millimeters to 4 millimeters. Now we're not actually going to print this gem. It's the bezel that we're going to print. So if I now switch on the bezel by clicking on the eye and selecting it, I need to scale the bezel down as well by the same amount. So if I press S on the keyboard and type 0.4, that will scale the bezel down. Now you can see it's gone into the ring itself again, but that's alright, we just pull it up. Now whenever you scale a curve object, you must always apply the scale. So you must always do Control A on the keyboard and apply the scale, and watch the thickness of that change as I did that. That is really important. If you don't do that, you will have problems printing. Now that 4 millimeter diameter bezel looks like it's going to be about the right sort of size to fit into my letter A there. I think the only thing is I'm going to remove this inner part of the A and replace it with the bezel itself. So if I just hide the bezel for a moment and hide the gem, and if we just select our letter A here, so I'm going to replace this bit in the middle with the bezel, and we can do that because this is a curve still at the moment. If we press the tab key and go into edit mode, really what I need to do is highlight these control points here. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, highlight those half a dozen control points there, which are for this object in the middle, and if I just press X on the keyboard and delete those vertices, I've deleted part of the A. Now the beauty about this, about using parametric objects, is that if you actually wanted to reshape this letter A, you could do. Okay, so if you're not happy exactly with the shape, or you want to move this bit onto the ring, you can do. So we could move that bit onto the ring if we wanted. I'm not going to in this case, but we can also delete things. So if I just come out of edit mode now, because I've just deleted what I want, and I just put the bezel back in, and the gem itself. So really all I need to do now is position the bezel. So if I just go to view, and I think if I view it from the back and press the home key on the keyboard and just zoom back in. So I want to position this bezel now so it's in the center of the A there. Now I suspect I'm going to have to switch off the snap. At the moment the snap is on, so it's going to jump big amounts. I want to sort of fine tune it, so I'll switch off the snap, and I can just position the bezel now until I'm happy with it in the letter A. Yeah, that seems okay. Now clearly the sort of the height that you've got on this, and remember there is a ruler on the toolbar, you can measure this height. So at the moment it's 2.5 millimeters. That height is going to depend upon the gem that you've got. Okay, so you may want to adjust that height. You want, oops, I've got the wrong object selected there. Let me just put the A back where it was. You may want to adjust this height depending upon the gem that you've got, and I say there is a ruler so you can measure that. And once you're actually happy with that height and the position of it, we've essentially created our ring now. All we need to do is we need to delete that gem because we're not going to 3D print that, and we just need to join these objects together now. Now before you do join them together, because they've all got different cross sections, okay, so the bezel ring has got a cross section, for example, of 4 by 0.8. The letter A has got 3 by 1. Because they're all different, don't join the curves together. What you need to do is to convert each of these 3 objects to meshes first of all. So go to Tools, Objects, and convert them to meshes. Convert the ring to a mesh. So get all 3 objects as meshes. And then if you hold down the shift key and highlight all three objects, you can join them together. So you've now got one object joined together, and because they were all parametric smart objects to start off with, the only thing we need to do is to run this through NetFab Basic. So if we go to File, and if we export this, and I like to use Wavefront OBJ format, if I just export that to the desktop, and I think it was a 18.09 millimeter ring, and it had the letter A, Harrington Font A, so I'm going to give it that file name. So if I export that object to the desktop, it's not quite the finished object yet. What you must always do with Fluid Designer for 3D printing is you must always go to NetFab Basic. So if we start NetFab Basic, and if we just go to the desktop, and it's the ring with the letter A in it, and so yeah, we've got a warning red triangle there, but we don't need to worry about that too much, because all we need to do in NetFab is to run the repair utility. You can see there's some border edge problems and some holes, so you just run automatic repair, and when we click update, you'll see the edges, the orientation, the holes, they're all fixed by NetFab, and you just apply the repair and remove the old part. And so there is your personalized ring, in this instance with the letter A and with a 4mm bezel there to put a gem in, and all you need to do is to save that now. So if we export it, and I just save it as the same name. So oops, we've got another slight issue there with manifold edges, but again, if you just click optimize, if you get a warning red triangle there, again, I'm pretty confident, because of the way we've created this using curves, it will work. So that's it. So we had to do 2 repairs in NetFab there, but it only takes a minute in NetFab. So that's how you can create your personalized ring. Thank you.